Howdy, my name is Gabriel Antonio Vázquez Lizalde. I'm from Puerto Rico. Currently, I'm a chemistry major at the University of Puerto Rico at Cayey. During this summer, I've been working here at Texas A&M Chemistry Department on Dr. Sindl's lab. Together with other members of the lab, we have been working on alternative methods and materials that can be applied to solar cells. One of the major problems that we're currently facing as a society is global warming. There are many factors that influence this problem, one of the biggest being the emission of carbon dioxide. Currently, the fossil fuels are the most common source of energy and the most common source of carbon dioxide emission. It is important to consider that the world population is growing each year, and with it, the energy demand. So, we must solve the following question. How do we reduce the carbon dioxide emission, but at the same time, keep up with the ever-growing demand of electricity? With this view in mind, researchers all over the globe have been studying different renewable energy resources, and in our case, we have been focusing on solar energy. One of the major problems regarding solar energy as a renewable energy source comes from the cost of creating a solar cell. Most current solar cell panels are made with silicon, which have some big disadvantages, being the purification of silicon is rather expensive and difficult. Another disadvantage of current commercial solar cells comes from the efficiency. This is how much solar energy is converted to electrical energy, which most of the time is less than 30%. Another big problem comes from storing the electrical energy. Solar energy can only produce electricity during the day, so batteries are needed to be implemented to store the electricity. But batteries also have problems of their own that can range from the material to how much energy they can store. For this reason, if we see this as an industry perspective, investing in current technology isn't worth the cost compared to fossil fuels. For this reason, researchers have been working to find alternative solar cell structures and materials, ranging from organic thin layer cells using different mechanisms to scale light, and also currently for us implementing metallic nanoparticles. The core of our research performance extends from the response of small particles have with light. These small particles are on the nanoscale size and most of the time are smaller than the light wavelength they are irradiated with. For reference, our hair is around 75 microns in diameter, which is around 75,000 nanometers. Most of the particles we use are 100 nanometers, so if we try to fit these particles on the diameter of hair, it's gonna be around 7,000 particles. These small particles are called plasmon, and the particular response they have to light is surface plasmon resonance, which may give the nanoparticle a bigger absorption or scattering of the light, depending on its size and shape. Plasmonic gold, silver, aluminum nanoparticles has been used on solar cells in different manners, from rods, spheres, and other shapes. Also, they have been used in different manners on a solar cell.
The project that Gabriel and I worked on is trying to tackle an old challenge, first identified in the mid-20th century, relating to semi-ion emission converters. These converters are a type of heat engine for generating electricity that uses a very high temperature electrode to emit electrons across a vacuum gap in an electrical circuit. The challenge we are trying to resolve is simply no material that can withstand the operational temperature required to make practical devices. In our study, it turns out that the emerging plasmonic material, for example the gold nanoparticles, has the advantage to decouple electronic temperature and lattice temperature under photon illuminations. In other words, the gold nanoparticles can generate electrical power with the electrons at a temperature above 8,500 Fahrenheit without damaging to the material. We believe this project could potentially lead us to the new next generation solar cells.
On a more personal matter, I think this project we're working on is really important, and it's a first step for developing more efficient solar cells that can sustain the increasing demand of energy. Coming from Puerto Rico, a tropical island where we have sunlight all year long, there are big possibilities of implementing solar energy as a renewable energy resource. During 2017, Hurricane Maria struck Puerto Rico, and it was one of the most destructive hurricanes to hit the island. During the post-hurricane time, there were people that didn't have electricity for around 3 to 4 months. So the major issue was that the electrical lines were all down during that time. Locations like hospital, dialysis centers, and other critical locations were affected by this problem. So working on this project have been rewarding on the sense that we're taking a step on working on further developing less expensive solar cells and more efficient solar cells that can be used on a general public.